What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Good Wolf Project. I'm your host, Jerry Scarlato, and today's conversation is with Toktam Thomas. Toktam is a personal development coach that focuses on health and mindset development, and she's gone through her own personal transformation as well over the last couple of years, which is why she got into the coaching space, because once she figured out that she could change her own life, she also wanted to help other people change their lives, and she has done a fantastic job of doing so. She has built herself into a mentally resilient, physically resilient human being over the last couple of years. Her transformation is absolutely inspiring, to say the least. One of the things that you'll notice throughout this conversation is a thread of confidence, a thread of certainty, a thread of taking the wheel and turning it in the direction at which she wants it to go, and then going in that direction. Um, and the amazing thing is, she convinces you that you can do the same, and you can do the same. She actually did a little mini coaching session on me at the end, which you'll see whenever you go as you watch this episode. I told her about my own, self-doubt that I have from time to time that I developed over years, and something that I recognized as I was going through a divorce and closing the business last year was my own level of self-doubt. And so she gave me a little mini coaching session at the end of the episode, which was very enlightening for me, I can tell you for sure. So, at any rate, get your notebooks out, because definitely you'll want to take some notes on how you can develop yourself, how you can build your own mindset, how you can get yourself out of a stuck place if you feel yourself being stuck, how you can push yourself whenever you feel like you don't feel like pushing yourself. Why you should trust yourself and believe in yourself more. So much good stuff that comes out of this conversation. I just can't speak enough of it. So just enjoy this conversation with Toktam Thomas. Toktam, I'm ready to have a great conversation with you. I know it's going to be good because of the transformation you've had with yourself over the last couple of years, which is extremely unusual. I owned a fitness studio for 10 years, and you are basically a dream client, if you will. I think you know that about yourself now that you work with people regularly. You know your dream client when you find them, because it's
Mhm.
just like you just tell them to do something, and then they just kind of do it. So, or maybe it wasn't that easy for you. I don't know. We'll find out in a second. But you said something in one of your posts recently that I want to play off of. One of the copy in your post said, Complacency is the most common weakness of humans," which I completely agree with. We all have a breaking point, I would say, when it comes to
Mhm.
complacency, though. I've had a couple in my life. I had one in my early 20s. I went through like a 9-month long state of depression and put on a bunch of weight that I told myself was kind of on purpose because I was still lifting weights. And um, anyway, got on the scale and hadn't gotten on the scale in like a year. Got on the scale, and it was 240 pounds, which I'm only 5'10", so 240 at 5'10" is not a good look. And so
Mhm.
it was a awakening for me. It was an epiphany. I was done being
Mhm.
complacent with how I looked physically.
Mhm.
Then I had another one recently. I actually recently got out of and closed the fitness studio, and then also got divorced, all within about a
Mhm.
3-month period of time. I
Mhm.
was married also for 10 years and owned the studio for 10 years. So it was time to change both of those things. I had gotten
Mhm.
comfortable in them. I think my wife would say the same. I'm speaking for one person mostly, but after coming out of it, I think we both agree we had gotten comfortable in an unhappy marriage. And when it comes to the business, it was very much the same. I'd gotten comfortable in a business that was it was good. I loved the business. I loved the company,
Mhm.
but it was just not fulfilling the needs that I needed it to fulfill personally anymore. So
Mhm.
all that to say, you reach your own level and your own breaking point at some point,
Mhm.
as you started to make these changes. Before you reached that breaking point, had you tried making changes in your life before?
Yes. So I had actually I was, if you want to say so, semi-successful at it. So I was raised in a very toxic family. So I had gotten myself out of a very toxic family. I was living on my own since I was 16, paying my bills. I had evolved very much and always tried to reach for higher levels of living, which at that point, I thought it was always income. I thought money was the problem. So I was reaching for higher paid jobs and going to school, so on and so forth. And, bachelor's degree, master's degree, PhD, started that. So I was always pushing for more. But then there was a point where it's interesting, I just wrote a post that I haven't posted yet. I reached a point in which I thought, I'm not really getting ahead. I'm still having this average life. So I'm receiving no extra results, but I'm holding standards so high. And I thought, I'm just tired. I'm just tired. And I just want to live an average normal life like everybody else. I just want to maybe also eat and drink and do all these things that everybody else was doing. I wasn't really drinking alcohol until I was about 25 or so. I didn't like the way it made me feel. I was working at restaurants a lot, and I always held myself to the standard of alcohol is around me, so I cannot afford to drink it on a regular basis. And I always was raised, my mom was very wise actually. She said, if there is anything that's always calling you or pulling you, then you need to cut that off, whatever it is. It's just a form of dependency. So up to about age 25, I was pushing and always doing more, but I was still not getting ahead. So, and I had a boyfriend and he introduced a glass of fancy wine at home. And I always call it a Trojan horse because I thought, well, everybody who has money and is successful also drinks. So I guess it's not that harmful. It's not a drug. It's not heroin. It's not cocaine. So I guess I can have that too and still maybe push forward, not understanding that my uh, in retrospect, I can say the energy and the love I have always received from the universe, that I cut that off. So my connection to my conscience and my inner trust was entirely interrupted with having this glass of wine at night. And the glass of wine led to other not serving behaviors. I opened the door basically to more allowing myself to relax and let myself go. So my whole power and everything that had defined me was slowly chipping away just by having a glass of wine at night. So I let myself go, and I didn't really put one and one together until I realized it doesn't matter even if I don't drink for 6 months. I always come back to drinking. It was a part of a part of my identity, something that I thought belonged to my life. I thought it was glamorous. I was one of those women who watched Sex and the City. And I thought it was always fancy to have, a glass of wine or champagne or mimosa for breakfast. And it was fancy wine, it was champagne, it was fancy bourbon, fancy um, scotch. So I felt less trashy about myself. But by the end of the day, I was just poisoning myself and I was destroying myself. Um, so yes, I had gotten myself into a rhythm of good habits and pushing forward and being so much more than my family was. However, I started declining. And by declining, I mean really slowly, just not pushing forward for growth at about age 25 until I was 39, until I started with Wes.
That's incredible. So you had a lot of good habits built in you that you had developed over time, that you had
Yes.
developed at a young age, which is also incredible because many people in their early 20s, most people are busy drinking at
Mm-hmm.
in their 18, 19, 20, and
Hmm.
beyond. That is prime drinking time.
Hmm.
It's like right in that phase. But
Hmm.
you had not done that. Why did you make the choice during that time of your life to not go down that route?
Many reasons, one of which was I simply, my mom was into drugs and alcohol, so I wanted to be anything but her. I just didn't want to be like her. And so I knew what I didn't want to be like. I didn't have a role model to look up to. So I hadn't figured that piece out yet. But the other part is I was simply entirely my whole life depending on myself. There was nobody paying my bills, there was nobody taking care of me. I had just not the luxury of saying, I'm going to fuck off a few years of my life. I always had to make sure that I have one or two jobs. When I moved into my first apartment at age 16, I was literally going to school, having like a nanny job, a full-time nanny job for two families, and doing homework and doing everything. I was sleeping only a few hours, but I was doing it all on my own and by myself. So I just didn't have, I guess, the time to be dumb about it. I didn't have the luxury. I think it is a luxury to say, I'm going to go after college and uh, fuck off a few years and just waste it, because my parents are going to pay my bills and my car is paid for and college is paid for. So I just didn't have that. And there was never a plan B. I was plan A and that's it. There was nothing else. So
Wow.
I think that was a big part of it.
I found that and working with people, both working with people and through the podcast, I found that people who had to take responsibility for their life early, basically have a similar story.
Mm-hmm,
They come out on the other end of it pretty damn well.
mm-hmm,
It's not that maybe they didn't, most of them didn't choose to. They didn't
mm-hmm,
want that path. They didn't want to have to go get multiple jobs at, 15,
mm-hmm,
16, 17 years old. They didn't want to take responsibility for their life, but they had no choice, which it sounds like
mm-hmm,
that's exactly where you were.
mm-hmm,
And when you're thrown in that situation, either one of two things happen. You take the responsibility and you use it as a recognition of your independence as a human and you use it for growth, or you feel bad about it and you kind of spiral downwards and you end up potentially, and this is just from what it sounds like your mom in the situation where your mom
mm-hmm,
is.
mm-hmm.
But you saw the opposite. You didn't want that part of it. And you knew that in your mind that you didn't want to end up like your mom. So between having to be responsible for your life and not wanting to be like your mom, that combination really helped put you in that trajectory, I think.
I think, yes, that helped for sure. I think, as an example, we have three kids. My two siblings have not had the opportunity to take it as growth. So my older brother, he's the oldest. He is still, the last time I talked to him, he was still delivering pizza. He's almost 50 and smoking pot and drinking. And my sister was, last time I talked to her, in and out of the mental institution constantly. So I think there is a choice. I think there is, I don't know what my siblings felt and what made them go one way and me the other way, but I always, from a very young age, I remember just trusting that I know what I'm doing. I got it. I know where my moral, I mean, I remember as young as 3 or 4 years, I had so much faith and trust in myself because I knew what was right. I always had integrity and my morals were just, it's very logical to me what is right and what is wrong. And I feel as if everybody knows and we're born with this compass, but a lot of people just unlearn it or the parents maybe take it away from them. And you said earlier, you actually know most very successful entrepreneurs come actually from a place of pain. And I personally think we had to endure pain for such long period of time that everything else, that was not a choice that I made. I was born into the family and I had to endure it. I can feel it in my bones, thinking so often, why? Why is this happening to me? Why do I not have an uncle, a grandma, a sister, somebody I can speak to and relate to, somebody I can share my pain, somebody who can just give me any kind of help? Nobody. There was literally nobody. And I remember it ripped my heart as a child multiple times apart. But I had to endure it. It was a situation where you literally get reborn into a new version of yourself because you must endure the pain. So everything else that you can voluntarily now do, I can now endure pain and it pushes me into growth. So it's a piece of cake for me to pick up voluntarily some little pain, as in getting out of bed or going to the gym or staying on my macros. It's just a joke to me compared to the pain that I had to endure as a young person. So I think that's the reason people who have been in so much pain succeed. We just don't, we know, we feel it in our bones how painful life can be when it's not in your hands. So now we actually have the steering wheels in our hands and we make damn sure that we know where we are going. There's no deviation. If I have it under control, I will take it under control. There's no other way.
Well, and going back to taking responsibility for your life early, you learned in the beginning that if you do certain things, if you take certain actions, that you can take control of your life. You can take that steering wheel and you can steer it in the direction that you want to steer it. Whereas the majority of, especially westernized society, and I totally put myself into this category, I will totally admit it. The majority of westernized society, their parents steer the way for them until a certain
Mhm.
age, which is anywhere between, who knows, 20 and 50, maybe, who
Yes,
knows, right?
yes,
But,
yes.
you know, and let their parents steer their way through life for them
Mhm.
instead of them ever having to take control. And whenever you
Mhm.
actually hit a road bump in life and you don't have someone there to figure out how to do it for you instead of you having to do it for yourself, that's why, and that's why complacency is so wicked because
Mhm.
you get so comfortable with your life and you don't know
Mhm.
how to overcome those obstacles because you haven't had to you weren't put in that situation early. You didn't have to take
Mhm.
the car by the wheel early.
Mhm.
So you it's just harder for you. It feels bigger even though it's small.
Yeah,
Even
you
though
are
something is
basically a
small.
baby.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So, because you overcame big challenges, big obstacles, big pain when you were young, the stuff that most people bitch complain about today, whenever they're trying to make changes, you're just like, okay, um, can we move on to the next thing? I don't get,
Yes.
I don't get
Yes.
it.
Exactly that. It's exactly that. It's as if I would have started going to the gym lifting weights at age 3 or 4, and now somebody starts at age 50. Of course, I have an advantage. That's why I always say the people who went through the pain, the darkest and deepest people who feel so disadvantaged and are so lost, they are the strongest. They have the biggest and deepest roots. They have suffered already. So all they need to do is now collecting the fruits. They just have to turn around the energy and collect the fruits. They know how to navigate through the pain and endure it. So I feel almost sorry for people who didn't get the opportunity to endure pain and make decisions. So
So you said at 25, a glass of wine started to turn you down a different path or
Hmm.
started to slowly chip away, we'll say, at your morals. Why
Hmm.
do you think that that crack showed up at that time? The crack in your foundation at that time? Was it just a moment of weakness? Was there something else going on that you're just like, hey, I feel like now's a good opportunity to try this? What do you think that was?
I mean, I could think about it theoretically
Mm.
and say there's so many ways this could have went, but my nature is to say it went the way it was supposed to go. And I think I would have maybe not appreciated the strength that I have without taking this detour. And on top of that, so I was at an age where I also didn't know how else to proceed. And we tend, as humans, we tend to put ourselves into familiar situations to prove ourselves again in very similar patterns. So I don't know if I subconsciously threw myself back to prove myself again that I can rise up. I don't know that. As in, how fat people lose weight and then they get fat again to prove themselves again that they can do it subconsciously, or an entrepreneur loses everything to prove again they can make it again, right? So I don't know if I did that or if it was just I was mid 20s. I got out of the industry. I was not a server anymore. I started going to college because I was a little lost. So that was my first straw. And so I thought, well, now I'm not around it anymore, and a glass of wine could not be that bad. So these were thoughts going through my head. And I literally remember vividly thinking, I just want to relax too, because I'm so intense. I'm so go, 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 go. I did not allow myself ever to get out of shape. I never allowed myself to lose my temper. I was just so perfect that I felt the urge at some point to let go and also be imperfect and see where it's going. And I think this version is now much more mature and I know how to use it intentionally, the force and the fire that I have inside. Because I have tools now. I know how to use my tools. Before, it was really born out of survival and out of, I know what's good for me and I'm just going to do these things. And I called it always putting the good goggles on every time things happened in my life that were not so good. I always said, how can I put my good goggles on and see it in a positive way? These were things that I just naturally did, not understanding that the universal laws just worked like this. And they were always working in my favor because I was very instinct driven. My instincts were very sharp because I had to survive so often situations where I had to trust my instincts and where I felt very supported by the universe versus going by what everybody else did. So when you feel more and think less, the universe just gives you a path.
That's pretty amazing that you again developed that at an early age because so many people block that. And I think it's just because we don't give ourselves grace enough to even think that that's capable that we're capable
Mm-hmm.
that the universe is capable of helping us in a
Yes.
way. Um, so let's talk about then at 39 when
Mm-hmm.
you decided to go back to your old ways, if you will,
Yes.
which for most people is not a positive step forward, but we're moving back to a step forward. Where was that breaking point at 39? So you had gone down this route for 15 years almost, and
Mm-hmm.
finally you got to a point where you're like, hey, I can't, wherever I am today, I don't feel like me, maybe, or I feel like I could be better. I feel like the world just isn't as good as it could be. I feel like I'm not as good as I could be. What was that breaking point? What's up, guys? I want to jump in here real quick and talk to you about achieving your goals. If you're listening to this podcast, then I know you want to achieve something extraordinary in life, whether that's building a business, getting in the best shape possible, or maximizing your time with your family. And if you want to do any of those things, there's two things you need to be able to master. One of them is time, and the other one is productivity. It starts with managing your time and being able to eliminate the things that are getting in your way so that then you can set your goals and start to break them down into actionable steps and take those steps and interject them into your life so that you can take action and turn those dreams into reality. And in order to help you do that, I created the Alpha Life Action Plan. It's literally a 90-day action plan that does both of those things. Starts with taking your time, figuring out where you're spending it, eliminating the things or delegating the things that you don't need to do so that you can free up your time to then set your goals and break them down into action steps and start to take action on them so that you can achieve the things that you want in life. The Alpha Life Action Plan is yours for free. All you have to do is cover shipping. You can go to goodwolfproject.us/action plan and put in your information there and have it sent to you ASAP. That's goodwolfproject.us/action plan so you can start to take action on those goals and dreams you want to create the life that you deserve.
Honestly, I didn't know at that point anymore what was wrong with me. I just knew that it didn't matter if I wasn't drinking on 75 hard for 75 days, or if I just decided to not drink for 6 months. I always came back to drinking, and that just did not feel right to me. I felt a dependency. I'm a very independent person. I felt an underlying dependency that didn't sit well with me. On top of that, by then I had the things that I thought I wanted. I had the marriage, I had the house in a very nice neighborhood, white picket fence, two kids, one girl, one boy. Both are healthy. They go to a private school. I'm a stay-at-home mom. And I thought, what is wrong with me? I have everything that I thought I wanted on the paper, but I feel empty. So what's going on? And I still always was very happy to have my glass of wine at night because I was so stressed and all the moms were drinking their glass of wine at night. That's just normal. And then on the weekends, everything I do is just very extreme. So on the weekends, I always had adult parties and I always had the best spread, best wines, best drinks, best food, and had either all the parents or family over. And we celebrated. And I don't even know what we celebrated, right? We just celebrated the weekend. And so that also didn't feel right to me. And I remember shamefully a few evenings where I was too tired to read to my kids, where I was too tipsy, too drunk to remember really how I put my kids down. I mean, there were a few nights, and I can't even drink that much, but the fact that I wasn't entirely present with my children made me feel sick to my stomach. Waking up the next morning and my kids I just don't remember much from those evenings. And the time was basically stolen away, it was gone. And I didn't spend it with my children. I honestly didn't even spend it with my friends and with my family. It was just an event, an excuse to eat and drink and escape the life that I had built, the Monday through Friday life. I needed a break from my life, which was ridiculous. It was so stupid of me that when somebody pointed this out to me, my mentor, it hit me like a baseball bat. It hit me the second he said that, not even to me, just into the universe. I thought, it makes entirely sense. Why would I not enjoy my entire life? Why would I create a life from which I have to escape in the evenings and on the weekends? It doesn't make sense. That's not the majority of my life. So it took me about 3 minutes to actually make that decision and then sign up and jump on it. And really, everything else is history. The second it makes sense to me, the second logic clicks, I'm done. I just don't, I can separate myself.
Mm. Yeah. So there are a number of people, and I would say most people who really transform have
Mm-hmm.
that kind of transformation. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not that exact same way, but they have a moment where they just something happens and they just
Mm-hmm.
there's just an epiphany in their mind and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
damn, I got to do something. I can
Mm-hmm.
think of a story that one of my clients told me when I owned the studio. He wasn't a big guy, but big is all relative to the person. He said he was going to put his pants on and he went to button his pants and his pants wouldn't close. And he just
Mm-hmm.
looked at himself in the mirror. He's like, what the hell, Brett? What are you doing here, man? You gotta do something about this. It was
Yes.
just literally trying to button pants, and he had that epiphany moment.
Mm-hmm.
I told you when I was in my early 20s and I got up to 240 pounds, and I had convinced myself up until that point that I was trying to bulk up and put on weight, so it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. I can put on weight. I don't have to weigh myself. Everything's okay. And then I got on the scale and it said 240, and I'm like, nope, that's not okay. So literally in that moment, I decided nope, got to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, what happens is we have a big enough level of pain that we say we cannot do this anymore. You had always had some level of pain in there, but you were finding ways to maybe cover it up with with the drinks or with the parties and
Yeah.
things like that for
Yeah.
sure. Right. And that's what we all do. We have a level of pain, but we can cover it up and we can mimic, we can kind of like pat it down and bury it enough until it gets to a point, until it reaches that breaking point. And once it reaches that breaking point, either you decide you change or you really spiral down and hit rock bottom. But it's amazing that you were able to do that. So, did you have once you decided, go ahead.
So, yes, I was living Groundhog Day.
Mhm.
So the universe works like this. If you don't learn your lesson yet, you keep repeating, it keeps dishing you the same problems. I was living Groundhog Day, so I was not evolving. There was no growth happening, which I didn't know at that point was my problem. And my soul literally it felt like drowning to me. I felt as if I cannot breathe. It was, I was suffocating my soul. And it was, uh, it was very painful to me. It was extremely painful to me to a point that one evening I told my husband, I drank my glass of wine and I cried and I said, if it wouldn't be for my children, I would not want to live this life anymore. It wouldn't be worth it. On the outside, nobody would understand that because nothing was really dramatically wrong. But for me, my soul was so much in pain and suffocating. I was not using any of my potential. And so literally went down on my knees that night, and I'm not religious, and I just begged for a way out. I begged for a path out. And the next morning, I listened to a podcast, and then my mentor was on it. And I took that as a sign and I just went with it. I ran with it. And I would never dare to not appreciate that. Not a day passes in which I do not see the opportunity that I have gotten another chance to really show what I'm made of. And so that was the true breaking point, the true breaking night for me. And so that from there, I took it. It was October 19th or so, 2022.
That's amazing. You remember the day. Um,
Mhm.
so as you started to change, we all have mental barriers. We all
Mhm.
habits are what old habits die hard. That's the saying.
Mhm. Mhm.
Both just external habits, meaning change the way you eat, change the activities that you do, but mental
Mhm.
habits are equally as challenging to change,
Mhm.
if not more so. Mental habits
Mhm.
really were our biggest obstacle, right? You
Mhm.
You can
Hmm.
tell yourself, I'm going to start working out, I'm going to start eating differently, and then you can start doing it, but then you're going to step in your own way and you're going to figure out to make yourself, you're going to figure out a way to sabotage yourself.
Yes.
So, did you have any of your own moments, any other mental barriers that you ran into where you
Yes.
felt yourself wanting to go back toward a safe place that was your old version?
Yes and no. So I dropped that night entirely my ego and I put my trust into the hands of my mentor because everything he was saying made sense to me. I'm a very logical person. And I just listened and executed because I was aware everything that I had in my life was nothing. I had failed in every area of my life as a parent, as a wife, financially. Every decision that I had made had led me to this situation I was in. So I had to trust that it can't get worse than this. So I got to let go and let somebody else take over, which is for me a huge amount of trust for a person like me to put into somebody else's hands. But I just had to admit that I had failed. And so I took responsibility for my current life and I put trust into somebody's hands to show me the path. And I think that is a big problem of people when they still have some ego left. They start telling themselves the stories that are just not true. The ego is trying to protect you and keep you in your comfort zone. It's its job. But since I entirely crushed and dropped my ego, my awareness was there to say every time when I had these thoughts of, as an example, I remember thinking, is there such thing as too much protein? Or can I just eat a lot of protein now or as much as I want? And just the amount of fat and carbs that I was recommended. But then I was able, because I didn't have an ego, to go back. That's where the awareness comes in and tell myself, wait, he wouldn't give you a certain amount of protein if it wouldn't matter, right? So why would it be okay with the carbs and the fats to stay within the range or weigh it? But then with the protein, I make the exception and think to myself, it wouldn't matter. Why? It doesn't make sense, right? This is just a story that I have been told by the society that a lot of protein is good. So in that moment, when you have self-awareness, you can just, then it becomes a decision. Then it's not subconsciously anymore. And I could make the decision to steer myself back into and correct myself. So I think for that reason, I had these mental barriers, but I was aware and I was watching myself to make sure I don't ask stupid questions, basically. That's what it is, right? I say stupid question. If you shoot questions out of the hip, it's because you're lazy. You don't want to think about it. You don't want to look it up. So you take the shortcut of asking. If it's really something that you cannot figure out on your own, it's always good to ask your trainer, your mentor, your coach, whoever it is. But until you hit that point and truthfully say, I don't know the answer here. Can you give me a hint at least? A lot of people just are lazy to think. So they go first thing and ask. I'm sure as a coach, you have experienced that a lot. So that's where I was. So that I barely in the first 90 days, I think I raised one question. And the question was, I had some acne if I should switch to vegan protein or not. So I wasn't really sure about that part. And I couldn't figure it out on my own. And in the end, I tried it. It didn't make a change. So I went back to whey. But I think that was the only question that I raised in those 90 days. Other than that, I just executed. I really just put my head down and executed. And I felt so good after 60 days that all my doubt was gone. So,
So it wasn't self-sabotaging behavior in the sense that like you tried to go back to old habits. It was more of like you were being told to do these things, but you were, because you're logical, I understand, you were just questioning things. You were just
yeah,
questioning the way that things were done, not because you thought that they were wrong, but just because you were, maybe you had a belief about it and you were confronted with a different idea, and then you had to figure out, the answer to a degree.
yes,
With the
yes.
protein situation or the protein example that you gave, you had a belief about it. He told you to do something different, and so you had to figure out this situation. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't like figuring things out. It does take a little bit of energy to actually process through questions from time to time, or process through ideas. As Wes would say, we don't have a knowledge problem, we have an application problem. And I've seen that so many times through and through. You could walk up to anybody on the street, I believe, and ask them how what they would do to lose weight. Don't ask them what they would do for them to lose weight. Ask them what they would tell their friend to do. Because if you make it impersonal, then it's more easy for them to actually think of ideas. Whereas if it
Hmm.
comes down to them, then they're like, well, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I've tried a lot of things. Uh, but it really comes down to you just haven't done things long enough. But everyone's got the information in their head. If you just take some time to actually think through it, you can figure it out.
Hmm. It's true. I mean, to lose weight is one thing, but you know, there's a lot of people who don't know to make it a lifestyle. To just how do I align actually with the goals that I have in any area of their lives? Not having results and running in circles is just the worst. Constantly. I mean, it's again, once this was pointed out to me, going to the gym and not looking like you do, going to work and not making any money. It just doesn't make sense. Nobody is questioning this shit because everybody is doing it.
When everyone's doing it, then it feels like it's the normal thing to do. But
Exactly.
um, to go back to just making changes, we're just our biggest barrier is really what it comes down to. And because we don't because we don't dedicate ourselves enough, one of the beliefs that society has is that, you need to do everything in moderation. If you're going to make some changes in your life, make sure you don't exercise too much. Maybe you don't eat too healthy. Don't do any of these things. But the truth of the matter is, moderation is just a scapegoat for people who want an excuse to not achieve their goals. Because if you want to achieve your goals, moderation is not an option for you. It is something that you have to not believe in anymore, because you have to eat healthy. You have to eat good quality food 90 to 95% of the time. There can be a maybe 5% gap in there. If you want to have a certain looking body, if you want to be lean, if you want to have a six pack, if you want chiseled arms, whatever that is for you, you want bigger muscles, you need to show up to the gym regularly 95 to 99% of the time. You cannot skip more
Sure.
often than that. You cannot choose to just forego because you had a long day at work. So there's just a bunch of beliefs that society tells us that we don't do a good job of pushing back on. And because we fall into
Yeah,
those beliefs, we end up looking like everyone else in society with the same results as everyone else in society.
absolutely. I think it starts even further back by people thinking it's a punishment to eat healthy. So they are counting the 90% or the 95%. I I read Wes's book as I was going through the first 90 days, and to myself, my self talk is just better than everybody else. My self talk is just lethal. Therefore, my actions are lethal. Therefore, I have better results. When I did not want to eat healthy, my self talk was literally putting it into perspective. Wes was trading in prison where you have no pleasure, any kind of pleasure available like we do, his chicken for his brownie on the tray because he wanted to stay on Mappers. And I'm here complaining about a perfectly piece of chicken breast that I have to eat again. So putting food into perspective and enjoying it, making it enjoyable, seasoning it the way I like it. So I really like my food, the foods that I eat. When I don't want to work out or do some extra cardio or whatever is on my plan, I thought back of him creating weights out of books and water gallons and humans to have more resistance because he didn't have the opportunity. So I take myself mentally to a place where what I am doing right now seems like an honor and a pleasure. Just the perspective. My self talk and my mental game is just better than everybody else because I turn things into how can I be thankful for this? And how can I turn this into the universe is giving this to me for a reason? There is just no losing in my world. I don't lose. I'm either winning and I'm flying high, or you get to that sick point where you see adversities and challenges as I can't wait to come out of this because I'm going to be even more savage.
Mm.
So there's no losing in this. I'm either getting stronger and learning lessons, or I'm winning. And then when I'm winning, it feels good, but I know I'm not growing. So I'm forcing myself constantly, and we all do it, to go back into the contraction phase and go back into, hey, I need a new challenge here. Where's my blind spot? So let's go get at it.
That's good. Um, I want to say a line to you that I've heard you say a number of times in your videos, and I want you to tell me what it means to you. As within, so without.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard you say that a number of times in a number of videos, and you hit on it. You've hinted around it. You haven't said that directly yet in this conversation, but you've said
Mm-hmm.
it indirectly a number of times. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, just off the top of your head, what's that mean to you?
So I am not a religious person. I have never read the Bible and or any religious book for that reason, but I have plenty of religious followers because apparently there is a lot what I'm saying coming out of the religious books. Your external world, we can take it into physique, into quantum physics, string theory, or we can take it also into religion because they used to be separate for me until I learned they're actually the same. So we basically everything you see on the outside, it's made out of atoms. So everything we see is there because of a certain vibration, is physically because of a certain vibration. The vibration is so I basically have created my external world due to a vibration that I am vibrating out of my internal world. What that means is I have a thought. That thought generates a feeling inside of me. That feeling makes me literally go after certain action. This is either habitually you generate more and go higher, or you generate less and go down. You can read the book Outwitting the Devil, who talks about the positive and the negative side of the atom, that you literally basically charge one side over the other side. You can call it heaven or hell, you can call it dark side and light side, or you call it God and devil, whatever you want to call it. As a matter of fact, it works this way. Our world works this way. There are universal laws. So when you learn to control, entirely control your thoughts, you can control your vibration. You can play with it. You have tools to raise it. And therefore, you can control your actions and you can control your life. So when you control your thoughts, you are in control of your external world. Now people say, well, I'm I'm seeing this and this is not changing. It's nothing that changes within 3 seconds, as far as I know. Maybe people are capable of doing that. But the way I explain it is this: it's a butterfly effect. And I talk on my live about it a lot because people ask me a lot about it. When you are here right now, there are an infinite amount of you out in the universe. Every time you make a good decision, you shift into a different direction. And then you make this decision and that decision. Depending on the decisions that you make and the vibration that you have, you are becoming a different version every time in this present moment, because this is the only time there is. You are creating, you are moving and collapsing the time between you and this other version. So as a result, we can say if we accumulate good decisions, we will ultimately become the best version of ourselves, which is one version of an infinite amount. At any given moment, you can make bad decisions and this can move. So your destiny is not written yet. You can take the pen and you can literally write your own book, your own chapters. You can create your own movie, write your own song, however you want to express it. It's entirely up to you. And that's where the responsibility comes in. That's where you can say, once I learn these techniques, I am capable of entirely creating a world that I thought was not possible for me. It doesn't matter where I'm coming from, but I know for sure where I'm going. Right? So this is the
Hmm.
reason I have been, the only reason I've been able to make this transformation is because that's what I do all day, every day. I just work constantly on raising my frequency, and it's a muscle. The thoughts, it's a muscle. We get all distracted. We all have desires that come in and that we get distracted by. So it's a learning curve. But the more we do it, the stronger we get.
So for those of you listening, Outwitting the Devil was written by Napoleon Hill, who is the guy who wrote Think and Grow Rich. That's his most popular book. But Outwitting the Devil, I think, is more powerful in a way, but
Mhm.
but you have to understand it at the same time. Um,
Yes.
and because of what you were trying to explain there, right? Just an understanding of being open to a different idea, I think is maybe a better way to put it. Because most people are just like, well, if I just do things, then I do things, and that's just the way that it is. Or if I just feel this way, I just feel sad today, and that's just the way I'm going to feel. Well, no, I mean you can choose to shift your energy if you want to shift your energy, but it requires you being intentional about it, and it requires you being intentional regularly about it so that your frequency shifts over time and not just it just happens to
Mhm.
shift the one time and
Mhm.
but you don't make it a constant
Habit.
ongoing thing.
Mhm. You're not controlling it. Also, as you said it now, being being sad or having these negative feelings, it's all a notification where you need to look into. It's nothing bad. There's never anything bad happening to you in your life. It's all happening for you. So when you get a notification of something that makes you feel bad, you just have to freaking look into it and take action up and on it, and it will disappear. And we do have sad moments, and that's okay to have sad moments. We are learning. That's the contraction phase. We're learning constantly. The soul needs to expand. There is no expansion happening if there's no contraction happening. There's no growth happening. If you wouldn't feel the discomfort wherever you are, you would just not move. So the discomfort, that negative feeling that you just label as negative, is what you need to move. Otherwise, you wouldn't move. You would be complacent. You would be happy where you are and you would think you have achieved it all. I don't know how many people I talk to, they're drinking and they're cheating on their wives and saying, but I do have the money and I go to the gym and I do have my health, not looking undeniable, still drinking, still cheating. not making large amounts of money, thinking they're at a good place. It's just not true. So if you don't have these tools, if you don't understand yourself and the universal law, if you still suck at being you and you're not authentic and cannot speak your truth because the source is that most people do not want to feel their feelings, whatever there is, they want to disconnect from those feelings. When you disconnect from those feelings, you feel shame and guilt. You're holding a treasure of whatever you want to hold inside of you. And we can feel that the energy is just off. Your shame and guilt is the lowest of all. So it doesn't matter if you're still have the desire to sleep with 20 other women and you're holding it or you're doing it behind your wife's back and you think you have made all the money, you still suck. So you have yourself with you. It doesn't matter how much money you have made. You still suck. You're still not your authentic self. You're still not saying there are 20 women I would like to sleep with. I have to take care of this problem because I have desires that I feel shame for. So on and so forth. So ultimately, deal with all of your feelings, remove the vices, sit in your feelings, whatever that is, and deal with them. Find solutions to them. And that requires to be able to be uncomfortable. It's not comfortable to deal with your own shit and look in the mirror like I used to look and say, you look like shit. I looked like shit. I was not attractive. I was out of shape. I was depressed. I was a bad mom. I was not a good role model. I was not a good wife. I was in every area of my life. I was just awful. So I had to admit it. Did it feel good? Heck no, it didn't feel good. It felt horrible. It took me about 8 months to go through all the pain that I had caused myself and my family, on top of dealing with all my trauma, my childhood trauma, that I now had to open all the doors that I thought I had locked up and kept so safe. I had to open all those doors and feel all of those feelings, which now ultimately I can speak about all of it. And I'm good. I we all have the keys to our own prison that we have in our heads. We all have it. We just don't want to open it because it is too painful. So we take this band-aid of Xanax and pills and alcohol, drugs, TV, food, whatever it is for you, porn, and pleasure ourselves, give ourselves a 5-second dopamine hit because we cannot endure what we have created and where we live.
Yeah, and I've had to go through all that was extremely powerful, by the way. I kind of went into a trance there listening to you for for a second because I was just taking it all in. But I having gone through the my divorce last year and closing a business, two big changes in life. Both of them, had the business for 10 years, was married for 10 years. The For the 6 months after that, I did a lot of opening doors as well. There was a lot of soul searching that I had to do, a lot of figuring out that I had to do, because what I didn't want to do was find myself in another situation where I was just trying to please cover, whatever, cover up pain that I was trying to cover up, or, deny some sort of denial I was trying to get myself into, whatever it was. So there was a lot of door opening that I had to do. One thing that I figured out is that I tend to doubt myself pretty regularly, which is ironic because I've always been definitely always been a physically gifted person. So that's never been an issue for me. And generally speaking, like when I actually think back on it, when I want something, and I put my mind to it, a lot of times I end up getting it. So the fact that I still doubt myself means that I haven't done enough figuring out of how to start to work through that and how to start to overcome that. And and I know that it's also kept me from achieving a lot more than I could have achieved up until this point. So it is definitely worth the effort. It hurts. It's no fun. It is challenging, but the other side of it is something new and something different and a new version of you that you feel like you can embrace and love and care for. Definitely, um, even though it feels hard in the moment when you're going through it.
100% a version that is more free than the version before. And I want to give you this as an idea. You say you doubt yourself. Doubt is a gift. If we wouldn't have doubt, by you saying that, you assume that successful people don't have doubt. We do have doubt and fear. Everybody has it. Doubt gives you the opportunity to prove your faith. Let me rephrase that. If we wouldn't have doubt, everybody would walk that path. So doubt comes in from the universe to say, are you sure you want this? And that's where the freedom of choice comes in, and where you can prove yourself and separate yourself from everybody else and say, I do have faith. I don't see where this is going. Doubt is coming in, but I trust, and I'm going to walk this path. If you go this path, you have proven doubt. You have proven faith into something that you can't see. It's not guaranteed for you. Whereas most people say, I have doubt, I'm going to back off. So they have chosen to side with fear, and you choose to side with faith and say, thank you for the doubt, but I know I have faith and I trust. So we all have doubt. You just need to stay the course. It's just, again, an opportunity for you to say, my faith is bigger than everybody else's. I'm going to walk this path. Okay. And the only reason you feel as if you're not adequate enough for the levels that you want to achieve is, and we all have that, people stack on their wins. When we go back and look at where am I, where is the level I want to actually be and think I am and should be, that I am, where is that? The true version of myself. Because that true version, 10.0 version of yourself and where you are right now, the distance is only shedding away all the bullshit, because you are that version already. You just have not achieved the level of awareness of yourself. So you have to become more aware of yourself. How do you do that? By working on your weaknesses. So whatever the distance is, the discomfort is. So I want to be the best podcast host on this planet. Let's say you compare yourself with Joe Rogan. What is Joe Rogan doing better than I am doing? His production is better. His speaking is better. And then you pick it apart and you attack those areas. Once you attack those areas bit by bit, in the beginning, you are going to suck at it. And then you do it 100 times, you're going to get better. The entire level, the entire Jerry is slowly then moving up in all areas. As you elevate your weaknesses, your strength actually comes to shine. If you don't strengthen your weaknesses, your strength, there's only a lid to it. It can never surpass a certain level. You have to work on your weaknesses, because the whole has to move together. You're expanding as a person, and not just one area, not just one arm of you. So you have to enlarge entirely, work on your weaknesses. The strength will shine. And then as you go, you have to figure out other areas that you have to become aware. Then you become psycho, as I said, like I did. And you're constantly working with people who basically slam into your face where your weaknesses are. Doesn't feel good, but you know this is the only chance you have to break it and move faster. You need to know the areas that you're unaware of and that you're slacking. That's your blind spot. Once you become aware of it, you just have to attack it. And then this is how you just move to the next level.
That's good. I will be replaying that so I can listen to that again for sure. But that was good. And you certainly bring up a valid point. And I certainly had a little vision there of what you're speaking of, the ceiling,
Mm-hmm.
the growth ceiling. I can
Mm-hmm.
certainly see how the weakness will keep your strength from having that breakthrough
Mm-hmm.
potential.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
100%.
that's so
Mm-hmm.
good. Um, Toktam, we've already been on here for over an hour, and it seems like
Wow.
it's been about 10 minutes.
Yes.
So this has been fantastic. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your wisdom. I definitely appreciate that little bit there at the end. There was a lot of powerful stuff over that last shoot, probably 20 or 25 minutes. There was a lot of powerful stuff in there for sure. So, I guess where can people find you in case they want to learn more of this infinite wisdom or want to reach out and get a little help?
Yes. So uh I live inside of Instagram, basically. So you can reach me on Instagram, Toktam Thomas, Toktam, and then Thomas, Thoams. And you can just shoot me a DM and we'll start chatting and see if we're a good fit. I do one-on-one coaching, I do group coaching, and if you're ready, I will make it work. So these tools and everything I have spoken about work, and I have great results with my clients, and I love this. That's why time is flying. Time is flying because when you're in the present moment, you're free of desires. And when you're free of desires, you're exactly where you need to be in your purpose.
Hmm. No doubt. And if you take a second to actually look through her feed, which I'm sure if you go to her feed, then you will do that. You'll see the results there, very apparent. Taktum, appreciate your time. Appreciate your just the effort that you give out to the world. Definitely appreciate that so much. Thanks for coming on,
Thank you.
and maybe look forward to maybe getting together again next time.
Yes, thank you very much, Jerry. Thank you.